Welcome to Sacred Greenery, where we immerse ourselves into the healing wisdom of nature. Today I'm honored to share with you something very close to my heart. It's a special podcast interview I was asked to join with Emma Hwelette of Kilmokea Gardens. In this conversation, I open up about a transformative chapter of my life. A time when I left the fast pace of the world and went into solitude and silence. This journey into aloneness, simplicity, and nature had a profound effect on me. It reawakened my connection to the earth and in particular to the healing wisdom of nature. I'm very grateful for Emma. Her questions and responses really made this conversation wonderful. And I hope you enjoyed as much as Emma and I did. And I hope it brings you also insight and peace.
You are very welcome to Nature Speaks in Quest of Good Health podcast show, and I am absolutely delighted to be sitting here with Bernie Doran, who is an award-winning garden designer, author, and advocate for nature-based healing. And she is deeply rooted in the belief in the healing power of nature. And this sits very well as our inaugural interview, as Nature Speaks in Quest of Good Health is all about sharing the knowledge of all things natural in the world which help us with our health and our well-being and our lives in general. So we're very lucky to have Bernie because she has such an interesting story to tell. So I hope you don't mind if I do a little bit of reading and speaking throughout the introduction, as I want to make sure that I have all of the information to set the scene for Bernie then to be sharing with us all of her knowledge and her expertise and all of her experience of working with nature. So Bernie is driven by a personal request to reconnect with nature's pure, egoless wisdom. She spent several transformative years living alone on a remote region of Mexico on the side of a hill. Removed from the noise of modern life and free from the constant barrage of negative news and societal pressures, she immersed herself in nature's sacred presence. And wouldn't we all really love to be able to do that?
Well, actually, we can.
And Bernie took the plunge, and she has transformed herself to be able to help so many other people and just to experience so many other people in her life. So here she began to hear nature, not with the ears, but with the soul, and uncovering truths about the human mind, our relationship to stress and illness, and the way back to inner peace. During this time, she authored a book that captured what nature taught her, how the human mind is being shaped by negative inputs, and how reconnecting with the original codes of harmony as communicated by nature can restore health, peace, and clarity. The book outlines how the mind can and must return to a natural state of balance in order to live in harmony with self and others and with earth. Her mission led her to work in a healing center in Mexico, where she taught higher consciousness and holistic healing principles. She also expanded her teachings into the business world, guiding organizations to adopt higher ethical and energetic codes of conduct that foster sustainable long-term success rooted in integrity and mutual benefit. Today, she continues to speak, teach and design with one goal: to remind humanity of the sacred co-creative wisdom of nature, trees, animals, elements and ecosystems as divine communication systems. She sees it as her life's mission to share what God has asked her to bring forth: a path back to harmony, health, and reverent respect for our environment, communities, and the whole greater world. So you can see why I did a little bit of reading there, because there is an awful lot of information which Bernie is now going to share with us. So Bernie, you spent several years alone on the side of a mountain in remote Mexico, wholly disconnected from the modern world. At what moment or experience first made you hear the wisdom of nature, and how did that change your inner world?
Well, firstly, thank you for such a beautiful introduction.
You're very welcome.
It was during the second year, after adjusting to this completely new lifestyle, sense of being. I'm in a remote area in a country I don't know. I don't speak the language. So the first year was very dramatic in adapting to that lifestyle. The second year, I began to settle down and settle in. And to answer that question very specifically, I remember one day I'm sitting on a bank overlooking down into a kind of a valley, trees, and there's a river. And a tree started to communicate with me. And what I heard was, human, you have the idea that you are the super being, the super consciousness. But you're running around like a headless chicken, completely stressed out. Here I am, standing still. Everything comes to me. The sun, the rain, the nutrients on the land. I allow the birds nest in my tree. There's no major legal process, no planning permission. And now I've been alone for a while, so I'm quite happy with what I thought, my madness at the time. But it's not a madness, as I know well now. And I really heard the wisdom of nature showing me what it is about living in this peaceful collaboration without the competition and the stress. So it began there, and now I had studied and worked with energy modalities and the curiosity of energy healing before I went to Mexico. And that helped me a lot. But then began the real story of listening to nature, and there are codes of conduct of co-creative, harmonious collaboration. And I saw, we don't do that. So that's how it began.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating that you were actually able to pluck yourself out of, a busy life to make that conscious decision to connect with nature. So what actually led you to leave behind society and the negative ego world? Was there a specific moment or realization that sparked your decision to go off-grid?
There was. I created a healing garden for a major competition. In the presentation of the garden design, the healing impact and the message was kind of hidden under the table. We couldn't say it quite out there, but the intention was a healing garden. And the system of inviting the healing garden, they didn't like the design initially. They were semi-rejecting it. But I had this sense I want to do this, even though it was kind of a secret, even within myself. I was hiding. Anyway, cut a long story short, this beautiful healing garden won so many awards. And it was when I saw some people crying, looking at the garden. I didn't understand that myself. And that had happened to me on a couple of occasions previously as well. Putting a plan on the table for clients, and their reaction was very emotional. I didn't fully understand that. So I wanted to know what that was. So I left. I left Ireland. That was a whole other story why I left Ireland and went to Mexico. But I've always had a calling to that part of the world, especially connecting with the indigenous consciousness. So that was part of the impact that I went, oh, I don't know what this is, but I must know.
Oh, amazing, amazing. And of course, since you've been in Mexico, you have published your first book, Journey to Freedom. And the book captures what nature taught you about the human mind and its relationship with negativity. Can you share maybe one or two of the most surprising or powerful insights you received during that time?
Yes. From the early stages of the reconnection and realizing I was feeling this sense of calmness, but safety and security. And again, watching nature, how it collaborates with ease and grace. Yes, there's competition, but there's collaboration. And from previous studies as well, linking those two together, and then being out of the negative world, being away from that for almost 2 years now. I mean, I started to begin to feel different and think differently. So yes, there are 2 habits that I realized within humanity. In the book there, I mentioned 12. I talk about 12 habits that we consciously accept as a normal reality. And it's not in alignment with a higher consciousness of the potential, total potential ability of the human mind. One is blaming. In the blame game, we're constantly trapped in a system of victimizer systems. That does not exist in nature. And so that's one. The other one is, when I think about nature and how it grows naturally, impatience. Everything in nature is working in divine right timing. If there was impatience in nature, we wouldn't have fruits and apples, and we wouldn't have food on the table. So it's this beautiful natural co-creative with the sun, the earth, the movement, all of that. So I started to channel actually information about the habits of human consciousness and how it is actually so powerful at blocking us to connect to another reality, the true reality of how everything will be okay. So blaming, another one, dishonesty, how we play games of dishonesty in, even little things and then the big things. They all add up to disconnection from a more pure, correct reality for the alignment of the human mind, body system with the respect of nature.
And you've explained that so well, because I know you've only just touched on a couple of them, but it does begin to explain why people feel so good when they're in nature and around trees. And
Yes.
they nearly can't explain it. We certainly notice at Kilmokea Gardens that when people come to visit the gardens, sometimes they're a little caught up in the stresses of their life. And when they come back from being in the garden to have lunch in the cafe or whatever, there's a profound difference.
Yeah.
And there's much more of an openness for chatting and for sharing and just for being. You can see it in their faces.
Space of life. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So in a world that's consciously connected to media and stimulation and how do you suggest people begin reconnecting with the natural rhythms and the truths that you've experienced?
Okay, beautiful question. First of all, the human mind is not designed to be constantly entertained by negative information. And when we look at the volume of negative information that we are presented every day, that is not the true reality. If we, things happen and we respect that, but that's one thing that has happened. 50 million, 100 million, 500 million other people and other things have happened in the world that have been naturally, beautifully, harmoniously good living. So the attitude and the connection to the reality that the negativity is the truth and reality is completely upside down, and it's not right. So those years away from the negative impact all the time. For instance, one time, or after the 2 years, I came back to Ireland, flew into Dublin, had to stay overnight, stayed in a hotel. I opened up the Irish Times. Haven't seen any negative connection for almost 2 years. I wrote this down. Page 1 to page, 16 or 19, not one article had any good news. And it really impacted me. Mm-hmm. I couldn't switch on the television. It was only when I got to the entertainment part of that it felt, that's not a true reality of life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So cutting that out, nature knows. There's no ego in the rose bush or the oak tree spewing out negativity. But there is beautiful, harmonious frequency being emitted from the trees all the time.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And having mentioned the newspaper there, I remember asking the controller of a TV station in Ireland, who was staying with us many years ago, what was his opinion on putting good news into the news, and he looked at me blankly.
Yeah.
So that's very, very true.
Yeah.
So you are known for creating award-winning healing gardens. Mm-hmm. How do you design spaces that nourish the body and the soul?
Okay. First, I listen. I listen to the land, the piece of ground, because it has so much to tell me in relation to its soil conditions, the wind, the rain, all of those natural elements within my co-creative relationship and the person's co-creative relationship with the space. The next step is to listen to the people who are looking for a more conscious healing effect and action from the garden. Now, this does require a person that is open sincerely to this belief. It's, I'm not there going into a battle with somebody. I don't believe that kind of stuff, whatever. I mean, it's beyond that. So, and then it's to listen very deeply to the person's healing desire. And between the combination of listening and respecting the land, then the basic principles of good garden design come into this as well. So the first thing is really deeply listening and respecting, and then putting my skills of putting that into order. But the land speaks first.
And for those listening to the podcast, would you have just one little tip for them as to how they can do that, how they can start to listen to the land?
That's a big question. And
just one little...
Yeah, it is to go out and sit on the ground. Yeah. Take your shoes and socks off. Sit there, as I did this morning, with the dogs, and the birds, listening to the birds. Just sit and deeply listen. And there cannot not be that connection, the energy of the earth coming up through your feet, and the trees and the frequency and all of that entering into your system. Just listen.
And I have lots of experience of this, and I think what frightens people a little bit is that, well, what will I hear? What will I listen? What will come? What I find is that once you've been in that situation where you've earthed yourself for at least 15 minutes,
Yes.
which I think that's the sort of magic time, isn't it, to be connected with the earth, whether you're lying down or whether you're walking on your bare feet, either on the grass or at the beach, or of course the beach is wonderful because you have the negative ions coming off. It's more about after you have done that, how much easier the day is.
Yes.
So it's allowing it, isn't it? It's allowing it to come.
That's, in what's actually happening and has happened is your decision consciously and deeply, the subconscious knows. We are beings, we're animal beings, part of nature. Who decided to say that we were not an intricate, important, essential part of the animal species within the interconnection of nature? And that's where, and not living it just for either 15 minutes are excellent, but driving wherever you're going, A to B, getting on with your life. One lady said to me, I can't go up into the mountains and live alone. No, you can't, and you don't have to. There are ways and techniques and changing mindsets that you can have this with you all the time. Connect, plug in, and then it becomes a natural way of being within you all the time. I mean, I live a busy life. I have things to do, and here to go, and etc., etc., etc. But I do feel very connected all the time now.
Yeah, which is the key.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So you taught higher consciousness at a healing center in Mexico. How would you define higher consciousness practically, and why is it essential to healing, individually and collectively?
Higher consciousness. There is a state of reality naturally coded within the human being. I studied and I believe in the frequency of, it's a Akasha code system, and God, the God seed. God, for me, I call it the glorified order of divinity. It's everywhere.
Gorgeous.
When God created the system of God created the lavender, and I thought, the flower is beautiful. Oh, come along now, bee. You can enjoy the beauty of this. And the bee gets the nectar and flies away, and then creates honey. And it's that constant co-creative collaboration of every one thing supporting the beauty of the system. That's what God is for me. And we're part of that. So there's codes. And in the 12 principles that I remind myself frequently, some of them are, I am love. I am grateful. I remind myself of the gratitude I feel sincerely of this collaboration. And in that collaboration, I'm so protected. I'm fearless. Now, not in an arrogant way. I feel safe. I am. So there's so many I ams in the codes. And part of the to answer your question, the higher constant teachings is within those codes and explaining the affirmations of the I am. For instance, if a person is very angry, I am peace. Now, peace is not the opposite of anger. Peace is peace. It's in itself peace. Anger is a whole other system of cause and effect. But the higher codes, connecting into those firstly as the absolute truth reality within your system, they help your reality clear away the negative attachments. So that is part of the teachings of the higher affirmations.
Oh, well, thank you so much for explaining that. And I'm sure you will all agree that caption of higher consciousness is something that has baffled many over the last little while, and I thought that was really well explained, and thank you so much. You also taught and do teach higher codes of conduct in business. Can you explain these codes and how aligning them leads to sustainable success in a world that often rewards short-term gains?
Okay. I'll answer that question by sharing the experience of one of the businesses I was invited to guide in Mexico. The owner of the business, he had certain attitudes that were not in alignment with what I would say the collectiveness of nature. There were a lot of women in the company, and his attitude towards the women was not very healthy, number one. There was a certain amount of habits of not necessarily speaking the truth in the business negotiations. Being competitive, trying to get the order, trying to get the balance of the books, and exaggerating. That's one thing that really the universe does not agree with, exaggerating my success. So there was a certain amount of arrogance, disrespect, not telling the truth, a lot of big egos, and mixing with that was impatience as well. So I went in and I started speaking about the higher codes of conducts firstly, and then examining where the lack of those were lingering in the business. Cut a long story short, he told me that his business income changed by a lot of money in a very short period of time.
With the change of the codes.
Yeah, codes of conduct, yeah.
Wow. Absolutely fascinating, and to bring it to the business realm. So you believe that nature's a divine communication system. For those new to this idea, how can someone begin to listen to nature, as we spoke about earlier, and recognize it as a spiritual guide? I know you touched on this a little while ago.
Well, the first thing that, again, going back on few points that we've already mentioned is cutting out the negative attachments. There's so much information now put out there as an entertainment, movies with so much violence and constantly needing to see what's going on in the world and the negative reality. So that's one. So imagine the impact for me when I lived alone for 2 years. I had no contact with the outside world, no radio, no television.
Amazing.
So I cleaned up. It helped cleaned up my attachments to that. The other thing is that science is proving it now. When I was living this reality and creating healing gardens, I was not doing it from a point of view of I need to prove it. I was doing it from a natural sense of belief. I know I am. So going into nature, as I said, science is proving it now. There's a lot of books written about it. And helping yourself connect by just believing it. I mean, we are part of it. Where does the food come every day on our tables? Where is it coming from? It's coming from the force of the earth with all these other energetic combinations. And we're sitting right in the middle of it. And we're not even aware that this is an amazing force that's there to guide and help me grow and feel happy, harmonious, protected and safe.
I quite agree. There is, the Japanese initiative Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, which has become a lot more popular in the last few years. I created a brochure at Kilmokea Gardens, which actually enables people to guide themselves around this experience. I know that generally people are introduced to it in groups, but I have found, we printed 200 of these brochures thinking that no one would be interested in it at all. And within 2 weeks, they were gone. And we're now 20,000 brochures later.
Wow.
And the great thing is that, I say to people, take this with you. Have it in your glove compartment. Whenever you go for a walk in trees or in woods with trees or plants or a natural environment, take out the brochure. Remind yourself, what is it doing for you?
Yeah.
And I think all of these initiatives really help people to connect.
Just one point there is also, what is nature doing for you, but also
what are you doing for it?
Exactly. What are you doing for nature? Because we are an amazing species of consciousness. And I don't know whether we can say that does a tree is fully aware of the God factor, but we have that within us. So, and it's that giving back unconditionally as well. And that's where the connection is.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And the lovely gratitude.
Yes. Yeah.
So, could you just, to wrap up, what is the core message that you feel that God asked you to share in this lifetime? And how do you see that message impacting the future of our communities and the earth itself?
Okay. Well, it began with me first in relation to my struggles when I was younger. I've always had a curiosity about higher consciousness, and especially the ego, the negative ego systems, and why humans suffer. Why do we need to suffer? And there was a time I was saying to God, I said, come on now, is this the way it's meant to be? I didn't truly believe it. But yet I was in a certain amount of stress and struggles, and I just wanted to know why, okay? So I found so many answers to that question. And that is one thing I feel very empowered and passionate about, sharing the reason why. Understanding why, then we have awareness. We can do a lot with that information. We can start putting that in order. And then, putting it in order, then getting back to the connection with nature. I don't see negative ego competition and battling going on within nature. Not the way that we humans have become habitual in acting out. So those two things, where nature and the glorified order of divinity, how that is operating and how we can learn from that. And when I'm teaching people, I always tell them, I am not telling you anything you don't already know. I'm helping you remember. If you are hearing this amazing technological, energetic being from God, of course you know. You've just forgotten. Somehow God showed me how to remember, and I'm just sharing people how to remember. So that's my message.
Oh, that's so lovely. We would like to really thank you all for listening to this conversation. Yes. And we're also very excited to share with you that we are going to be offering you a one-day retreat at Kilmokea Gardens, Great Island, Campile, County Wexford, on the 19th of June from 10:30 to 4:30, where you will be able to experience a lot of what we've been chatting about today, together with some Qigong, mindful movement, and sound bath and meditation in the garden, together with some helpful hints and tips on growing your own food. And we've got a really lovely takeaway, which you will be creating that day to bring home with you to help you with your growing your own food. The tickets are for the day retreat are on Eventbrite, and the most cost-effective way of purchasing these is to directly contact me at Kilmokea, which is Kilmokea, We're also offering an overnight where you can have a 24-hour immersion in the garden, which will also include the opportunity to have a lovely sauna, in a cedarwood sauna, and a jacuzzi and a swim in the indoor heated pool on your evening of arrival, to really immerse yourself in the whole Kilmokea experience before you settle into the day's retreat the next day. So for those coming from a little bit further away who would really like to experience that, or even those who live quite nearby and feel that a 24-hour would be just the ticket, that is available as well as the one day. But we have made the pricing structure very affordable for everyone. And as I say, the most cost-effective way of purchasing the single day is to contact me directly, and all of that information is on Eventbrite. So for today, we would like to say thank you for joining us, and we look forward to either meeting you in person on that day, or to meeting you through the comments. So do like and subscribe, because that helps the algorithms of more people being able to listen to these conversations. And do put any comments in the chat, as we love to hear from people with regards to any questions or thoughts that you'd like to share with us. So for now, thank you so much. Goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Bernie, for coming
It's
today.
been a pleasure.
It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, we would like to introduce you to our Root and Rise retreat on the 19th of June 2025 at Kilmokea Gardens.
I am Bernie Dorn, and an award-winning garden designer whose work is rooted in a deep belief that the most powerful designs are a reflection of nature, because nature in its purest form speaks directly to the human soul.
I am Emma Hwelette, a vital energy practitioner, certified aromatherapist, organic gardener and whole food chef. I love using the healing power of nature when creating recipes that awaken the senses, restore balance and nourish the whole self.
We have created a restorative retreat of healing movement and earth connection in these beautiful gardens. It's a haven here, a time for us to come back to ourselves through nature.
This retreat is a gentle, nourishing invitation to rediscover the power of grounding in the natural world. In embracing a lush garden, you'll explore how connection with the earth can awaken your energy, restore your confidence, and bring a deep sense of safety and inner peace. Reconnect, rewild and recharge in the garden. Join us for an unforgettable, luxury, exclusive retreat designed to awaken the senses and restore your spirit through nature, movement, and mindful connection. Connect with the bio to find out more and reserve your place. We look forward to welcoming you to Kilmokea Gardens on the 19th of June 2025.
Thank you.